welcome everybody. I'm James Kidd and I'm joined by...
I'm Becky Wilson.
And we should change that to be you're joining me, really, shouldn't we? Yeah. And we are delighted today to have Charlotte and Liz from Mad HR and Making a Difference HR. And they're going to be talking about empowering and superpowering and energizing HR professionals' careers. I was thinking, is that the Duracell bunny, the Energizer bunny? I couldn't remember which it is. That's probably a bad branding, marketing memory for me. Somebody will tell me which it is. Charlotte's.
I think it was the Duracell bunny.
Duracell bunny. Your eyebrows nearly hit your hairline at that point, Charlotte. That was impressive.
Wondering where we were going with all of this.
Because I'm trying to big you up. This is going to be an amazing. You're going to supercharge all our attendees' HR careers, right? That was obvious.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Anyway, back to Doris Stokes. So I'm going to shut up. You might be relieved to hear. Apart from 2 housekeeping, and then Becky then will come back at the end and finish us off in style, I'm sure. So welcome everybody. It's really good to see you all this morning. Not that we can actually see you. It'd be lovely to get back to in-person events. Becky and I, if you'd like to, if anybody would like to connect with Becky and I, that would be fantastic. And with Charlotte and Liz later, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. The Q&A is open for people who'd like to talk to Charlotte and Liz, ask questions about how to superpower their HR careers. Anything else I need to talk about, Liz, or should I really, really, really take this opportunity of shutting up?
I think we're good to go.
I think we're good to go.
Just please ask any questions as we're going through. If anything comes to people's minds, put the question in there. James and I will be watching the Q&A box, so we will pass those questions on to Charlotte and Liz. But as we're talking, please feel free to be constantly asking questions. Don't wait till the end.
And we'll either pick them up as we go through, or we'll put them up at the end, whichever is most beneficial. Right, Charlotte, Liz, brilliant. Thank you very much for doing this today. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for spending the next hour with us. As James has kind of bigged us up, hopefully by the end of this session, you will feel energized, a bit more kind of focused on where you're wanting to get through for your career, and also have some helpful tools to help you along that journey as well. So as you can see on the screen, Liz and I have got over 40 years worth of combined experience within the HR profession in various different roles, industries, guises, all of that sort of thing. And we are always keen to ensure, we're massive advocates of the value that HR can bring to organisations, and that HR continues to make a difference to the organisations that it supports. And that's really what Mad HR is about. Mad HR stands for Make a Difference HR. As HR professionals, we love to support each other, to support our growth and our development. And that's what we really love about these HR energy sessions. So we were super excited and grateful for the opportunity to speak to you all today as part of this HR energy sessions, because that's exactly what this is about. It's about sharing knowledge and building the network. So we, as Becky and James have both said, encourage you all to use the Q&A to really participate in this and to share your own experiences as well with the people that are here with us today. So hopefully, as we said, we're going to be giving you some food for thought on where you're going with your careers now and in the future. And we have got a couple of polls. We are going to keep it interactive. It's going to be really boring if you just kind of listen to Liz and I drone on. So please do, if you've got specific questions or comments to make, and when the polls come up, if you can get involved, then that would be brilliant. Thank you. So for those of you that joined us in the last HR energy session that Mad HR put on, this image will be familiar to you. I think it's fair to say that particularly over the last couple of years it has been quite a roller coaster ride for the HR profession. We've had to quickly adapt to all of those changing needs of the business, of our leaders, of our teams, and our end users, those customers and clients that use our products, services and solutions. And I'm sure that for many of you, there have been a number of highs and lows throughout that time. And it's always been our experience that as HR professionals, we're kind of with the unsung kind of heroes, really. We're quite understated in what we do. We don't really shout about it and head into the spotlight. It's usually other people that go forward and glean that spotlight without necessarily us having the recognition for the influence and impact that we've had on that situation. So before we kind of talk about the main event of why you're here, I really just wanted to use it as the opportunity to say well done and congratulations, and to celebrate your achievements as HR professionals, because it has been a roller coaster. You guys have added so much value in the organisations that you work for, and again, it's just that time really for each of you to reflect on what you've done, what you've achieved, the impact and the influence that you have made on your business and on your leaders and teams. And, you know, we spoke last time about getting a seat at that top table and how you keep it. And COVID, you know, really provided us with that opportunity to have that seat at the table, not only at an operational, but also at a strategic level. And whilst the pandemic kind of gave us that opportunity, actually it's about us continuing to leverage that voice, that increased visibility at that top table. So the question is, you know, is it time for HR to get back in its box? Absolutely not. No way. We're only just getting started. And it's about how we build on that moving forward. The opportunity is there. So it's about what we decide to do next.
So the Great Resignation is something that we've all been talking about a lot in our professional careers, in our workplaces. We're talking about losing, you know, talented individuals. But when we, you know, get back to the grassroots, actually, as HR professionals, we're employees too. And, you know, we have our own aspirations, we have our own careers to take care of, and we have our own needs. And that's okay to actually think about those things. I'm not sure if anyone else felt a sense of duty during the pandemic, that actually we needed to put our employees, our managers, they were all being put ahead of us in the line. And now that we've perhaps fulfilled our duty and life is starting to get back to normal in whatever normal might now be in the workplace, actually is the Great Resignation something that's applying to the people profession now and to HR people, because if our needs aren't being satisfied, perhaps our needs are no different to the employees that we're serving. So we can sort of move forward. So we thought it would be really useful to have an understanding perhaps of where everybody is right now in terms of their thoughts. You're on a webinar that's talking about taking your HR career by the horns. So please be assured that that there's no interest in anyone's individual answer to this question. We're just trying to get a feel for the room. And so, yeah, nobody's employer is going to be told what your answer is. If you are,
it's anonymous, don't worry. Just be honest.
Becky might be interested though.
She's too professional to comment on that point.
Absolutely.
Let's just keep her on mute though. Absolutely. And there we have got quite a spread. And that's really interesting. Yeah.
if we add them together, there's 45% of people that are looking for a change, whether they're happy or not. When you combine those two middle answers, 45% of people on the line here today are thinking about a change. So that's really useful and interesting.
And Becky will be mining all of the data from that poll later.
No, she won't.
No, I know.
At all, not at all. GDPR, James, come on.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a useful insight for you though, Becky, to have a feel, and if that's representative of the the general feeling in the marketplace.
It's really interesting at the moment because a lot of it, and actually that poll does say that people are happy in their role. And actually, I think through the last 2 years as HR professionals, anybody who's developing their career, it has given them an amazing opportunity to build on their skills. Whilst it's been really challenging, as an HR professional, you've been exposed to so much. And I think people are still enjoying their jobs because they're getting exposure to these different projects, but also thinking, can I do this elsewhere? So I think a lot of it's more around a change in industry sector or that next step up. But people are still happy what they're doing, but they don't want to miss out if something really interesting does come up, if that makes sense. Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, that's really interesting because it does kind of, it does match to what we're seeing in the market at the moment.
Fantastic. So what's changed in in HR? Where have we come from? Some of us are old enough to remember HR being called personnel. It was probably called a few things before that, but I'm not going to claim to have any time remembering anything pre-personnel. And actually the people profession, I think we're seeing a lot of job titles with referring to people rather than HR now. It does reflect that there is a step change in people's expectations in terms of organisational expectations, managers' expectations, and employees' expectations. So a really key phrase here that we feel is really insightful is about actually taking that outside look in, because businesses don't serve the people, employees serve the people, and businesses don't make products, the people make the products. So what we've really seen through the pandemic is actually a bigger realization, certainly in our client base, that actually people really are the key to the success of the organization. So what does it take to be successful in HR at the moment? Well, the layers are of agility. It's certainly something we've certainly developed in the last 18 months, being able to move much, much more quickly and at speed as businesses are having to work much more at speed. It's about commerciality, not thinking simply from the rule box, actually thinking about the business, its customers, and what is making that business tick on a day-to-day basis. And all our interpersonal skills and negotiation skills and all sorts of things that actually were not really have developed. HR roles now are much broader. We're sitting up at that top table. We are business in there with the business leaders, and that means that our career paths are developing and are different from what we've seen before. And really, to move us forward, we've got to see those commercial skills, those project management skills, and having a much bigger focus on the outside and looking in. And that's something we're going to come back to all of these areas as we move through the session this morning. So we would like to understand, as a part of our second poll, just what do you see as being the destination? Does your career have a destination that you're trying to achieve? What's your aspiration?
And what we're really interested in is that all-important other. So if you can use the Q&A box if there is another route, another kind of destination point that you're considering, because this is about sharing knowledge, helping to broaden people's perspectives. And so it might be that someone will come up with something under other, and that might prompt a thought in someone, oh, I hadn't even thought about that as a potential career destination. So please do use the poll, but also use that Q&A function so that we can all start to kind of really think about, well, what does that mean? Because a career within the people profession, it isn't necessarily that kind of linear, that traditional route throughout HR. It encompasses so many different areas now, and actually we're seeing a lot of HR professionals, people professionals, using those transferable skills and going out into the operation rather than just having that kind of pure HR people focus.
Fantastic. So what we're seeing there is, it's 41% looking to get to sort of HR director or head of HR. Combine that with kind of the other senior roles there. That's kind of 74% looking to be in that senior space, and that's where they're, people are aspiring to reach. And I don't think that result is terribly surprising. I think we often have that idea of looking at perhaps a ladder and working through those steps, and that's certainly something I've seen with lots of people. Yeah,
it'll be interesting if we ran that poll again at the end of the session, or indeed in 12 months time, when we did a bit of more soul searching and maybe using some of the techniques that we're going to go through, to see if that would be the same outcome actually. Because sometimes our aspirations, our perceptions of a particular role or a particular stage, whilst it seems like a good idea at the time, actually the reality might be something a bit different in terms of what that role, what that organisation at that level, the opportunity that it delivers to you. But I'll let Liz carry on.
So is the HR director role, is it the pinnacle of the HR career? So at this point, I'm going to indulge myself slightly with talking a little bit about myself, and you'll get the joy of Charlotte doing that in a short while. So if I take myself back to the beginning of my career, and when I decided HR was for me, I set myself some real strong kind of goals in terms of things that I wanted to achieve. And one of those things was that I was absolutely determined that I would become an HR director in a business before I was 40. And so very much the steps that I took and the roles that I took along the way were always with that end goal in mind. So I was looking for working in different sizes of organisation. I was looking for having experience in a unionised environment, having experience of lots of different types of things that would give me those different experiences and skills along the way. Also looking at kind of other experiences in other areas of my life to just pull together to become a plan. So I worked really hard, and I'm really proud of that. And so I did achieve that, and a couple of years ahead of schedule. Yay me. And but when I got there, and if we used that mountain to represent perhaps the steps along the way and reaching the top of the mountain, the view wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be. And I thought that it would be very fulfilling, and there was always this moment going, I will be fulfilled when I get to this next stage and when I reach to the top, and actually sometimes there's quite a lot of clouds there and you can't necessarily always enjoy the view. And so I had a real moment of going, I've always had this real clarity and direction of where I want to go, and got to the top of in that role and go, what next? And so that's actually provided me with a lot of soul searching. So I fulfilled that role. I was an HR director in a business throughout the pandemic, and I'm afraid I was one of the great resignations. And I made that choice to actually reevaluate my priorities. And so that led to me joining MAD, actually, because it means I get to be a portfolio HI director for a number of companies, because then I can jump and look at the views on lots of different mountains. And I found that that's much more fulfilling than looking at the same view all the time. I wasn't getting that fulfillment that I was looking for. And that fulfillment can come in lots of different ways. And actually just the badge and the title in its own right didn't provide that. It's actually the journey and the challenge of the opportunities and the work that you're doing that actually can provide those things. Or it might be a broader set of things, and actually that's what we want to kind of work through and explore, is going, well, what is it that's going to give you that fulfillment, so that when you do reach the top, whatever your aspiration is, that you can enjoy the view, or that you can go and find a different view that's going to be more fulfilling for you. So we love a model and a diagram and a graph. We had to get a graph in here somewhere. So this is taken from the CIPD, and so my very single-minded focus to my career path sort of to date had been very much looking at that accelerated path. So looking at just purely going the next step up all the way, but actually there are lots and lots and lots of different options available to us, and actually it doesn't have to be about taking the next perceived role upwards. There are all sorts of other ways in which we can find that growth. And so at one extreme, if the accelerated path is the one that's right for you, then great, that's brilliant, and enjoy that. But it could be that actually becoming a real subject matter expert, you might have a real passion for employee relations and really enjoy those really big L&D projects. It could be that reward is your area of expertise, and you can really plough a very specialist furrow into any one of those areas. Or perhaps you can look at moving sideways to get different experiences in, as Becky said earlier, perhaps into different sectors, which will broaden your experience, make you a rounder professional, but not necessarily by taking a hierarchical step. So there's all sorts, and it's just about having that flexibility of thinking beyond perhaps what I did, of going, well, it's about going upwards. It's about breadth and depth of experience in different areas. So it's just something to consider there, because it doesn't have to be the only way is up. And sorry, I don't have a clip of Yaz to illustrate that. I should have had that on tap ready, shouldn't I? And I'm not going to sing.
I'll do.
So yeah, there are all sorts of different areas that you could consider for HR, through to from operations. If you're a real data fiend, there's the use of technology now is changing the face of HR hugely. We found a study that said more than 45% of businesses were looking to increase their spend on HR technology. The SaaS market, certainly when I started my career, HR systems were things that were only really available to very big organizations. We are seeing a huge amount of people in our client base now putting in those HR information systems, able to make use and leverage technology. So if that's not been something that's featured in your world so far, the technology is coming to all businesses now. So getting used to using those and modernizing HR practices, it's really exciting, and seeing the difference that can make. And that's something I really enjoy working with our clients on. L&D, EDI, recruitment. There are so many areas that you can build your capability within, and it's about finding the one that has the passion and or gives you the those feel good feelings. And for me, that's about being a generalist, and I can't pick and choose. I want to do everything. So that means being a generalist is right for me, but you've got to find what suits you and what the best area is for you to use your skills and experience.
So on that vein, the coach in me was kind of jumping up and down, very excited with this opportunity to share this tool and this resource with you all. Now, this will be very familiar with those coaches in the room, with a number of you, no doubt, that have used this model. It may be new for some, so we'll just take a whistle-stop tour, but it's a really useful technique that we use within the coaching toolbook, because what it does is the Well of Life, it provides that kind of helicopter view for an individual to understand and to see how satisfied they are with various different areas or categories within their life, and you can rename these categories. So this is a technique which you can use for lots of different things. You can use it for when you're kind of planning your career path, looking at what Liz was talking about before, what really, what nourishes your soul, what is it that you really value within your HR career, what are those different elements that are going to motivate you to jump out of bed in the morning and feel absolutely energized for the day ahead. What this does is the coaching where it really helps the individual to become more self-aware of what is important to them at that particular moment in time. And actually, it makes them more motivated and more focused to move forward. And that's what we're talking about today in terms of your career. What would your 8 kind of categories be that are really important to you? So essentially, when you're considering your career, what is it that's important to you at that particular moment in time? And on the screen in front of you, you can see some of those examples that we've put there of an individual. And actually, these are the elements. So it's about having that flexibility of working, having that hybrid model, that ability to work from home, but also to go and get that kind of client interaction on site as well. Having great colleagues. How many of us have stayed in a role because the role is a bit but actually it's the people, it's our team, it's our colleagues that have really held us there, and because it's that social interaction which is really high up on our list of priorities. Being part of a values-led business as well, that's really, really important. We're doing a lot of recruitment at the moment internally and also for our clients as well. And we've always been very much a values-led business. That's absolutely critical to us. But we are seeing that this is, that ability for employers to really promote their employer brand in terms of their values. That's what candidates are really, being motivated and energized by when they're looking for that next challenge. And as Becky just said, we've got lots of people that are happy in their role because they're given the opportunity to do that, but they don't want to overlook it if there is a great opportunity that comes up around the corner. However, it needs to be something that's really compelling, and it needs to fit these categories in terms of what satiates them as individuals. So how do we kind of use this model in practice? Well, as you can see at the very start, at the very center, the core, if we put each of the line, it represents a number or a category. 0 at the center and 10 at the outside. And what you would do is you would rate your level of satisfaction within each one of those categories on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not satisfied at all. In fact, it's pretty pants, to 10 in that absolutely I'm totally satisfied in that area. There's nothing more that I could do. So by using that, as I say, it really gives a snapshot of where the individual is at that time. And as you can see on the other side of the screen with the wheel, that has been put on the screen there for you. It could be a bit of a bumpy ride for that particular individual. And actually, by going through this, it's very rare that you get a perfect wheel that's not going to give you that bumpy ride. Actually, what it does is it highlights those areas where maybe you want to put that particular focus and attention where you're not satisfied in that area. And actually, by putting this into the context of your career, what we were talking about, and we've seen this quite a few times, there's a lot of courses for HR directors, for example. That seems to be where a lot of people, that's the pinnacle of their HR career. So there are courses out there which will prepare you for your role as a HR director. And we've had experience of people participating in those courses and actually coming out the end of it saying, I don't want that. I thought I did, but actually the reality of what that involves, that's going to take me away from what it is that I want to do. So actually, that's what I thought I wanted to do, but now I'm having a different thought on it. So, getting to that top of the mountain, and then actually, the view is a bit cloudy and not what I thought it was going to be. And as HR professionals, I'm sure that you've been in very similar situations as to what I am, delivering that supervisor or that leadership training and going through what the role of a supervisor, what the role of a manager, what the role of a leader is. And I've had many an occasion where people have said, I never asked for this. I've kind of landed in this role, and actually it's not what I want to do. And yeah, James is looking a bit quizzical, but it really has happened. An awful
by our
lot.
Training, that's a real selling line for our training.
I know, but actually it's about people understanding what it is that they're taking on, and through a lot of internal promotions, because people are awarded these promotions through longevity, and they're a good egg, or they're showing a particular skill or attribute in one area, they'd be good for that. Suddenly they're landed with this role, and they don't necessarily, it's not a role that they asked for, that they really understood, or that they've actually got the opportunity in the environment to demonstrate the real value of that role. So they're kind of almost fighting with one arm tied behind their back. So they're not able to actually deliver what they thought that they were going to be able to deliver. And again, as part of our recruitment, we're talking to a lot of HR professionals, and there have been, it's that question of, so, what was your reason for moving on, that's asked. And a lot of responses have come back that, well, I went into the business for this specific reason, and when I got in there, I tried to deliver that, but actually the business wasn't ready, or it wasn't prepared to go through, that change management process in order to deliver what it wanted to be delivered. They had a taste of it and they thought, nah, that's not for us right here and right now. So actually, the decision was made by both the individual and the business. It's just not right. It's not the right time for us. And so that's, got that individual to move on. So it really is about looking at what is important to you. And just very quickly to kind of indulge myself for a second in terms of my particular journey. I will be quick, James, before you say anything. But when I've had various different roles within HR, it's all I've ever done, and it's absolutely what I love, and it's my real passion. And so I've done a mixture of in-house roles, and I've also done HR consultancy as well. And now I run my own business with my business partner, Carol, and we are so proud of what we've got here at Mad HR. But essentially, I had 2 children. I started a family, and so my career kind of was put on hold a little bit. So I left the automotive industry, which is an industry that I absolutely loved. I worked my socks off. It was my life. I had no life outside of work because the hours were ridiculously long, and my role absolutely. But I had a nice car to drive around, so that was great at the time. But when I had my first child, I obviously couldn't continue with that role because it wasn't a part-time role, and I wanted to be there for my child. So I took a role locally in-house as a consultant. And then I had baby number 2. And when I was on maternity leave, I really kind of had a bit of a, moment, because being a mum is my absolute number one job. That's the one thing that I love more than anything else, and that's my absolute priority. But actually, my professional side is really important to me as well, to have that balance between the two. And I need that to kind of nourish my soul, so that I'm not just seen as mum. And so, but it needed to be something really compelling for me to go back into the world of work. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to work for anyone else. I've always had my entrepreneurialism, it's in my blood. My dad ran his own business. I could see the benefits of that. I could also see the hard work, but I've always had something there that was really kind of, you know, I want something where I can enjoy the fruits of my labor, where I can shape it. And rather than doing things under the radar, actually, you know, this is my opportunity to put my stamp on it. And actually, I used this model for myself, being a coach, and to think at that point in time, what was important to me. Because before my children, my categories, my areas of focus were quite different in reality, because I didn't care when I started or finished work, because I was having an absolute whale of a time. But then when I had to lob in kind of childcare fees and the whole organisation of pickups and late pickup fees and things like that, actually the realities were something slightly different for me. So by going through this, what it actually did is it helped to empower me. It helped me to kind of, with all of the baby brain kind of fuzz of what was going on, because my brain was frazzled with CBeebies, it helped to really get that focus and that attention on what was important for me. And actually, you know, the opportunity that I've got here within MAD, again, like Liz, I can keep my hand in, I can continue with my coaching and my training and to be that portfolio HR director. But actually, I've got that kind of commercial, entrepreneurial, you know, fire that is absolutely there and being satisfied as well, to really grow and develop a successful business. And so actually what that's doing is that's helping to enhance my ability to be an effective HR professional, because I'm going through this whole process with my own business as well. So, you know, this wheel of life, it's really, it can be used, and many of you will be familiar with it. Many of you will have used it with individuals. It can be used for teams. It can be used for meetings and just general communications. But what it does is it really provides that great focus and attention of, so what does that mean for me? What's important? And go back and revisit it, because as I've just described, my wheel pre-family was very, very different to my wheel post-family. So this, as I said, I encourage you all to kind of take the opportunity. We're very good at kind of using these techniques and supporting others with it, but let's do it for ourselves. And equally, think about who, when you go through this exercise, who can you involve in that journey? Who is that trusted critical friend that you can bounce those ideas off and talk it through with? And when I talk about a trusted critical friend, think about who that individual will be, because depending on your relationship with them and whether they are involved in a kind of personal relationship with you, or depending on what the nature of that relationship, they may have their own motivations as well. And this is really important, that it comes from you rather than being steered by anyone else. So do just use that as an exercise. I think it's really powerful, and it's certainly helped me in the past as well.
So it's to sum some of those things up, it's really important to have a clear understanding of your why. Why do you aspire to be the next HR director, or whatever role or whatever next step that is for you right now? What is it that motivates you? Do you have any concerns, and how could those things be addressed? And it's really important to actually this is think about the stage of the sort of HR evolution. So I'm indulging myself with another graph. I do love a graph and a diagram. So I can't take credit for this one. This is a well-known Ulrich model, and we as Mad HR are working with clients in all of these kind of phases of HR. So we'll walk into some businesses where they're very much all that is known of HR is, well, that's where you go for the sick forms and you need to fill out the forms, and it's all about the record keeping and people turning up late, or is it that they're moving through something through those phases into actually what Ulrich perceives as being the highest state of being that outside look in and really focusing on the end customer and designing HR solutions and then delivering an HR service which has very much the employee users, the managers, and also the end customers of the business in mind, so that it really adds value. And this is something that we experience and look at through our own recruitment to our team, because there needs to be good alignment between actually the reality of the HR work that the individual is doing and has experience of, and the context in which that is being delivered. So we will see quite often titles being given away quite willy-nilly, for want of a better phrase. So actually they could be have the title of HR director or something actually really quite senior, but the reality of the context in which they are operating is actually wave one. So they are the director of paper moving around the business. And actually that is fundamentally very different to the HR director role in an organisation that is far more developed in its people practice, perhaps in wave four. So it's really important to actually be quite self-reflective of going, and all of these businesses, could be very, very successful, but being in the right business that aligns your personal experience with the context of that business, because we see a mismatch in both directions, where it's very frustrating if you are an HR professional who is very forward thinking and perhaps used to operating in that wave four context, walking into a business that's much earlier. You need to be eyes wide open to that challenge and consciously choose it, because it's I can speak from experience that's a very frustrating place to be, and you have to have a lot of resilience and a lot of patience, and vice versa. You'll be if your focus has been in very much in wave one environment and you're moving into that other space, then you can feel like a fish out of water. So those things are really, really key. And so really then go to goal setting.
Yeah, to move this on, I'm really aware of time. So again, we're just going to take a whistle-stop tour of the GROW model, and this will be familiar to a number of you in terms of goal setting. It's something that again is part of that coach's toolbox, but we're seeing this used within the operation more and more. The GROW model, it's basically a simple method for goal setting and problem solving. It's about looking at the art of the possibility and really unlocking that potential. And so the goal is the end point, where it is that you want to be, and by using that coaching wheel of life, actually that's going to help you to define, well, where is it that I want to get to? What do those requisite parts need to involve in order for me to be satisfied? So that's how you would identify your goal. But then when we're looking at the reality, it's about, well, that's where I want to be, but actually, where is it that I am right now? And what Liz has just said in terms of looking at the context of where you are right now. So not just looking at your own particular skills, experience and ability and capability right now, but also what's the environment that you're working in? What opportunities have you got to being opened up? So really spending some time to understand, well, where are you right now? And then you can identify what the gap is, and then we can plan of how we're going to get there. The O of grow, when we've identified the reality, this is the really fun part, because then we can look at the options that are available to us, and there'll be some which are absolutely amazing, that really spark that kind of passion and enthusiasm in you. There may be some where you're thinking, yeah, okay, that is an option, but that's just not for me. But just really exploring what all of those options are, and maybe, you know, from that, then you will get draw out what some of those obstacles could be. So then you're kind of going back into the reality part of it. So what is the reality of me being able to look at those options? And then from taking all of those multitude of options that are available that you've identified, which are really meaningful for you, which one or a few of those are you going to take that will help to take you closer towards achieving that goal? And then it's about revisiting that O route and looking at, so what might stop me? Because it's really about interrogating that next step of what you're going to do, so that you've got the best possible opportunity to convert that action to get you closer to your goal. So the wheel of life is helping you to identify where it is that you're wanting to get to, and the grow model really helps you with that, and what are going to be your next steps to get you there. As I say, because of time, it's one of those models which, again, you may use very regularly and be very familiar with. If it's new to you, then I would encourage you to go and broaden, read more into it, because it's a really powerful tool that can be used in the everyday.
Absolutely. And then when you're taking that next step, it's really important to do your due diligence, make a good decision, so you're not jumping from the frying pan into the fire. So there are always clues online. It's one element of information, so it needs to be looked at in the round, but the company's website, the social media feeds, and review websites will all give you clues about what it's really like in that organization. The tools of using Teams and Zoom and things are wonderful, but really it still needs to be a case that we go and see, meet, and get a feel for the site and the people that you actually would be working with, and just have those really great questions ready to unlock and understand the company, the culture, what is keeping that business leader awake at night, to really understand what they're looking for from their HR, their new HR director, what the role expectations are going to be.
So just to finish up then, in terms of those actual next steps of what you can do to help you shape your career in whatever guise that looks like for you, just some things to end on really. For us, it's about furthering that education. So, when we're talking about the education, it's about developing that knowledge, developing those skills, which are not only relevant to your role for right now, but actually it's going to help you to adapt to the pace and the needs of the business. HR, to have its great impact, it absolutely needs to be part of shaping that business strategy, but aligning all of the people activities to the achievement of that big business plan. It's not about reading all of the HR textbooks and then trying to apply that theory and push the HR agenda on a business. Actually, we need to understand the organizations that we're working for, and what does that organization demand of HR in order to achieve its deliverables. So take those learnings into your role, widen your perspective, read everything that you can get your hands on, professional journals, blogs, articles, everything, but widen that perspective. Don't just keep it on your particular career or even your particular industry. And that goes to developing your skills as well. So this is something where, if we take what Liz has just said in the context in which you're in your HR role presently, it may be that actually, through the evolution of HR within your organisation, the way in which it's structured, the way in which it's perceived, you haven't necessarily got the opportunity in your current role to develop these skills that you're needing for the next step. So, and then I was reading a LinkedIn post of, well, how do I get my next role? Because they're asking for the skills and experience, but I can't get these skills and experience until I get to this next role. So look outside of your current role. So are there any opportunities in the voluntary sector where you could really develop some of these skills? So becoming, the trustee of a charity, joining your local school on the board of governors, looking at those associations or groups and just understanding how different organisations, structures and frameworks work, and gleaning those skills outside of your actual role. Because just because you haven't got the opportunity in your current role, it doesn't mean that you can't look outside of that to develop those skills as well. And when we're talking about those transferable skills, it's thinking about planning ahead. So not only what you will need moving forward when you're plotting that career path, but actually thinking about the business world and where our profession is going. As Liz has just said, as the kind of people agenda is adding much more value to organisations, the need for digital acumen is absolutely imperative. So that ability to utilise technology to glean that management information, to provide that information to the business so that it's more meaningful and valuable, to be able to interpret and analyse data as well. That is so very important. And if you're not able to do that, then where else could you gather those skills from? Equally, it's about widening your network, and obviously we're here, and this is a great opportunity for people to network both in this event and in events outside. We've got great online facilities like LinkedIn, so that enables you to again widen your network, maybe connect with those thought leaders both inside the profession and outside of the profession to generate more thought in the art of the possible. But equally, let's get out there. Let's now use this opportunity to get out there and to start meeting people at events and going and joining groups that are outside. So again, we can really widen that perspective. And this is something which has always been quite interesting, because as a HR professional, I've never had to really network before. Before I joined MAD and before I kind of got into this whole business development, I've never really needed to do that, because how I perceived it, because my network was my internal stakeholders as an in-house person. But actually, when we're looking at progressing our HR careers, actually it's about widening that network that we have got. Yeah, I do need to get out more. That is absolutely true. Thank you very much. So as we know, sometimes it's not a case of what you know, it's who you know. So connecting with those other business leaders, looking at those different types of organisations, because as Becky said, even if you're happy with where you are now, actually through having these conversations, then interesting discussions can be had. But when it comes to your networking, what is your elevator pitch? Think about your own personal branding, which again is another really interesting exercise, because we're not used to having to sell ourselves within HR. And, when you get into a room and someone says, oh, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm in HR. Well, you get a number of responses, don't you? It might be in the same league as, oh, it's an accountant. Well, it's very nice to meet you, and I'm just going to go and speak to someone over there. So it's that lovely hug and roll, as we've internally called it. Or you get someone that says, oh, that's really interesting. And then they start trying to tap you up for free advice. James, I know that probably happens with you as well. Absolutely. For a friend. So then actually it's less about you and more about them trying to glean the information from you. Or equally, it's about the other person that has got their own war wound, and let's face it, everyone's got a story with HR. Some of it's positive, some of it's negative. But, you know, what is it that you want to get across to that individual? And just to kind of end on, if you think about and consider President Kennedy's visit to the NASA space station, absolutely, you know what's coming. As he was going around, he stopped with the janitor and said, "And what are you doing?" And the janitor said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." So I will leave you with that. When somebody asks you what it is that you do, what will be your reply? Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us. Hopefully you will have got some takeaways from this session. And I will hand over now to James and Becky. I can't believe they've stayed quiet for this long, quite frankly, for questions. So over to you guys.
Thank you so much. We were listening intently. So no, really useful. Thank you so much, both of you. And yeah, some really good points. And I'd also encourage you, think around, and I don't know what, Charlotte, Liz, you think of this, but a number of people I speak to at the moment, they get to a certain point and it's almost they don't know what they need. But a lot of senior HR professionals out there are now offering to be mentors.
Yeah.
And I know locally there used to be a mentoring group. So again, I'd encourage anybody, if you know a senior HR professional that you've seen, reach out to them, ask them to be your mentor, or just ask them to meet for a coffee, just to talk to them, and they'll give you their perspective on how their career has developed. And I've put a number of people in touch. One of my previous candidates was aspiring to be an HR director, but had got to a point where didn't quite know where to go, put her in touch with somebody else, and this year she got her promotion, and a well-deserved promotion. So use that network around you. Don't be afraid to ask, because we've all got each other's backs. You know, we all want everybody to succeed. So, you know, use people around you and ask the questions.
Should we do some quick questions, Becky?
Yeah, go on then. You.
So the earlier one, that I won't read out names, but when moving from a generalist HR operational role to HRP, what skills and knowledge should I develop / obtain to be effective? Any quick pointers on that? And I mean quick.
Increase your business knowledge, your commercial acumen. You have to increase your commerciality and understand the organisation that you're working with, what drives them, what their strategy is, what their deliverables are, and what they demand from their HR function. So you're doing that due diligence as well. So you're not only developing your skills, but you are making sure that you are serving the audience. I think also looking at the use of technology. So again, enhancing your digital acumen, so that you, as you progress throughout your HR career, it's less about the reactive and it's more about the reflection, the consolidation, the interpreting the data and analysing it, and being able to use that to provide the leadership team with really meaningful information that they can base their decisions on. So again, getting that seat at the table, how do you keep it? It's about making sure that you can add value from that. And I also think it's also about widening that network, because it isn't just about what you know, it's also about who you know. And HR touches so many different aspects of the business. So the more that you can have an understanding of what each of those different functions, what they do, what they demand, what's important to them, equally within your network, it might be that you can do some introductions as well, that you can think about who else outside of that business that you can bring in, what skills, experience and specialism can bring in to really enhance the business as well.
Wow.
Also, to touch on what Liz said a bit earlier, it's also when you're looking at a business partnering role, business partnering is so different in so many different organizations. So you see a job advert out there for an HR business partner, and when you drill down, it's an operational senior HR advisor position. So if you are looking, I kind of encourage anybody, try not to get too hung up about the title. Really think about the content of the role and what it's going to give you for that next step in your career, because a true business partnering is that reactive, is that proactive, working with a senior leadership team or working with a divisional MD to partner them to make sure the business strategy reflects in the HR and the people strategy. So it is about that commercial experience. So all I just say to people, don't get too hung up about a title. Look at the content of the role and what it's going to give you for your development.
I like that. I think we need to wrap up, Becky.
We do. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for your questions. We have recorded the event, so a recording will be sent out. So that the wheel and all the information will be on there on an email. We'll also be sending you a feedback form, as we always do. So your thoughts, feedback is always very much appreciated. And if you've got any questions or you want to get in touch with Charlotte and Liz, we obviously showed the tile there with their contact details, or if not, get in touch with James and I, and we can pass on their details. So, but thank you, everybody. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Liz. Pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.